Animating cameras in 3D world is too easy, but cinematic aesthetic can't be achieved by simply adding keyframes to the camera. In this video, I'm going to share with you some important techniques to elevate your camera animation to the level of cinematography. In order to make the animated camera look cinematic, we need to understand about real-world cinematography. Telling a story on the film is not just about recording the action. It is also important to consider how images are captured. This is known as cinematography in the film and television industries. Cinematographers should think carefully about every shot, considering the angle, the light, and the camera movement. A cinematographer decides which types of cameras, camera lenses, camera angles, and camera techniques best bring the scene to life. This helps preserve the intention and scale of the film. This is a brief introduction of cinematography. When looking at well-built professional camera rig that used by high-end production, you see a lot of stuff on it. That might look overkill. However, every component has a certain role that is crucial for the camera operation. But you can say it, I am working in 3D world. What should I do with a real-world cinema camera setup? Because cameras in 3D program work similarly to real cameras. So we need to understand real cameras. Once we understand the real camera, we can use it cinematically in 3D program. There are two key elements that we must understand from a real-world camera setup, which is related with our 3D program. They are the camera body and the lens. Yes, even in our 3D program, we have cameras and lenses. To find out more about it, select your camera and go to Camera Object Data Properties. Then you can see that we have a camera and lens. Under Camera Preset menu, you will find lot of cinema cameras. And you can select your dream camera here. Why there are so many distinct cameras in the Camera Preset menu? Let us look at what they are actually used for. Be honest, have you ever used one of these cameras before? Anyway, let's see how to use these cameras like a real camera. Let's test these cameras in this large set. Here I have selected the Arri Alexa 65 camera preset and I chose 35mm focal length for it. The intention of this shot is for the frame to cover both the roof and the floor. That's why I chose Arri Alexa 65 camera presets, because the sensor size of the Arri Alexa 65 camera is relatively huge. As a result, it can cover a huge set. You may be wondering why I chose Arri Alexa camera preset for that. Is not it enough just randomly increase the sensor value here? The main point of this video is that you can't achieve a cinematic result by making random tweaks to camera parameters. If you want your scene look cinematic, have to use the same camera parameters that would use in real movie camera. By using these camera parameters, you may produce a cinematic aesthetic. That is why we have so many camera presets available here. Now, see what happens if I reset this camera to its default settings. As you can see, the default 36mm sensor could not cover the set as we want. Okay, what happens if we change the focal length to cover the set as we want? As a result, focal length distorts the area proportion. Yes, it is totally up to you if you want to use this kind of look as a creative option for your scene. So we may conclude that larger sensor size cover more region and smaller sensor size cannot. So now you can pick the camera based on the scene. After that, along with the camera, it is important to pick the right lens for the shot. Now let's talk about focal length. Focal length affects your angle of view. What is angle of view? Angle of view is how much of the world your camera lens can see. A lens with a shorter focal length like 14mm, 24mm can see more of the scene than a lens with a long focal length like 100mm, 200mm, 300mm. Now I hope you understand what focal length is. When we are choosing focal length, it is better to pick real lens focal length values, so that it definitely gives a cinematic look. Now let's talk about depth of field. What is depth of field? It refers to how blurry or sharp the area is around your subject. A shallow depth of field refers to a small area in focus. Often the subject is in focus while the background is blurred. Now I hope you understand. Beginners frequently make the mistake of reducing the f-stop value because they want a blurry background. Beginners will consider this a cinematic look. Decreasing f-stop value blurs everything surrounding your subject, not just the background. This is what we must remember. Shallow depth of field is pointless if you don't know why and when to use it. I will show you some examples here. If you are composing a wide shot, then don't try to make your background blur. Don't try to lower the f-stop value because it causes a shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field refers to a small area in focus. As a result, your massive set seems to be miniature. For close-ups and extreme close-ups should use a shallow depth of field. This technique is commonly used in the film industry. Now I hope you understand how to use f-stop. Since this is not a camera animation tutorial, I won't talk about animating a camera. I thought I would share my thoughts on camera lenses and depth of field, so that those of you who don't know could benefit from it. If you found this video helpful, smash the like button so that it reaches more people. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave them in the comment section. That's all for now. See you later and salam.